Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Kenny Simpson. Coach, dude, we're so close now. Season is, it's flying upon us here. I think we have a half game left this week, and then it's game week. Have y'all started playing ball already? You're all on our schedule.
We had a scrimmage, so we played a benefit game, which was like a three-quarter game. And then we have a game that goes on your record this week. We have, which is kind of weird for us, we had a team that dropped to 8-man football, so this year for us a little different. We'll play 4 non-conference games. So they are games. They don't really count towards the playoffs, but, I mean, they're football games, so we're going to try to win them. And then we'll have 6 conference games. So it's a little different. Last year was 3 and 7 for us.
Yeah, and I think 3 and 7 is a pretty common split. Some states do some wild stuff. I talked to some coaches that have 9 regular season games, and then the 10th, everybody's in the playoffs. So lots of oddball scenarios out there. Mm-hmm. Are teams allowed to just drop to 8-man this close to season?
Well, I mean, I'll be careful what I say here because they do govern our association. But like most bodies that govern associations, they don't really always follow their own rules. So I guess we can just do whatever we want to. Kind of for that school, I get it. Those kids need to play football, and I'm sure they made the decision that was in the best interest of their team, but it sure did screw over 9 other teams they were playing and had to go find a game. So unfortunate, but it is what it is. We were lucky to find we're playing a team out of Missouri. Never played a team from Missouri before. The first team we decided to play has not lost a game in 5 years. So welcome to it. That's who we're going to go play this year. They've not lost a regular season game in 5 years. Yeah, they've won a few state titles. So our kids are excited about that, and we are too. That's going to be down the road for us, but that's going to be kind of a unique experience for sure.
Well, I mean, that's exciting. It's exciting to go take on a big dog from another state, especially because, I'm sure you've been seeing it, but Texas, Florida, California, all the big names are traveling right now, right? Right. I think Florida's a whopping like 1-14 in cross-country games to start the season. Florida Florida teams. That's just big news that hit, kind of the Twitter feed this morning. But
here's the deal with Florida, and I'm a Florida guy, so my coaches in Florida listen to this, and I'm gonna give them a little credit here. Like, yeah, I know they don't have a great record, but they're literally playing the best teams from every state.
For sure.
Of course, you're not gonna have a great record. If you put your one best against their one best, it might be different. But if you're playing, Florida's 20th ranked team against Pennsylvania's 1 ranked team, I mean, I would imagine Pennsylvania should probably win that. But I do think it's super cool to watch those games on ESPN. It's really neat.
Yeah, the cross-state games are always really neat. Obviously being up here kind of the Tulsa area in Oklahoma is where all the Big 5 are and generally considered the best 5 teams of football in the state of Oklahoma kind of run around up here. So I love every year people hypothesize that if Bixby's or Owasso's or Jinx or Union, any of those guys would go over and play any of these Texas teams or
I'd love to see a
team for California. Yeah, like everybody wants to. I wonder what would happen. Ben, you just got to line them up sometimes. I think it's really neat. I think it's a really neat idea. A lot of buy-in for your culture that way, I would imagine.
That's why our kids, we're going to actually meet this team halfway. So they're from Springfield, Missouri, and we're not. So we're going to meet kind of halfway in the middle at Mountain Home, Arkansas, and play a game. And I think it's going to be kind of a cool, smaller version of what you see on ESPN.
For sure.
I know they're going to be probably ranked number 1 when we play them, and we're excited to see that. But right now, we got to get ready we got a really tough game out the gate. Team we beat by 1. So we got to get ready. And I'm getting to wear a hoodie because it's like 70 degrees.
Dude, isn't it nice?
We're getting fake fall here, and it's going to get real hot in a couple of weeks probably.
Yeah. I'm obviously a deer hunter guy. I planted a deer plot 2 days ago, and then it rained a little bit. I was just so excited. It's the best timing ever. All right, man. Well, let's jump into the ads here. If you can, Coach, share some ways a coach can make things simple for his staff and his athletes. All right, guys, if you're live, this is where we do the thing. The magic happens here, and when we go in and edit it, hang around here. We'll get going. We'll eliminate the one sponsor. Everything else should be good to go. We'll fly through these sponsors this time. I think we've said them all plenty of times. All right, Coach, appreciate that. Guys, if you don't listen to the ads, please do so. They're great. Every time I'll admit I don't listen to ads on podcasts most of the time, and it's wrong of me. But here we are. Go talk to Ace Sports. Mark.bridges@acesports.com is a great place to email to get a hold of Mark. You can contact me, the DMs or whatever, and I'll get you hooked up. Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Hey, Doug has been doing some great things. This is a product we started using. We had to practice it. So we did it at a scrimmage. Our purple and gold scrimmage we tried. And then we did a half game last Friday. And so we used it there. And this week we'll get our last week of practice. It has been amazing. Kenny, you got access too, man. So it was really, really neat. We didn't have to tag any film. Friday night, I got home, 11:30, almost 12 o'clock. Film came across. By 12:15, the whole film was tagged. Everything we needed. So really, really neat. Worth the price for that alone, because no coaches had to wake up and tag film on Saturday morning. Big time. Anyway, I think it's going to be great for that. And just having that in-game analytics has been awesome. Sweet. Let's jump right into the questions here, Kenny. Let's see. So what we're talking about today is communication, and we want to talk game day communication because a lot of guys are going into game one, whether it be this week or next. Few people have already played. Talked to some guys from Alabama. Coach Nick Hall over there said they've already played a game and won. So we missed for a couple. But, we kind of want to talk about what are those coaches on those headsets saying anyway, right? Like who gets assigned to be in the box, who gets headsets, and what exactly are coaches talking about when you see them out there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
I think a lot of that just depends on your staff. Every situation is unique and different. I've been in places where they've had, maybe 4 or 5 coaches. That's all they have. And I've been in places where it's like an army of guys where, I feel like I don't even know what you would do with 30 guys, but so you kind of have your own situation. But for us, we try to look at one, which guys do we want, to be talking on the headset versus listening on the headset. I think a lot of times that's got to be explicitly said. Not that we don't want to hear from people, but there might be only things we want to hear from you if this happens or this happens or this happens.
For sure.
Or if you're asked to let me know. One of the hardest things in the world, I think, as a play caller on offense or defense is just having constant chatter going on in the headset. Everybody's trying to help. Nobody's doing that. They're not trying to help. They're trying to give you information, but you can only process so much information in 15 seconds. So generally when we're live on the ball, either way, we don't really want a lot of talking from more than maybe 1 or maybe 2 coaches who have been asked to look at a specific thing. As you get experienced in that, a lot of times before I'll even call a play, I'll let the guys know, hey, here's what's coming. Make sure you're looking for X, Y, or Z, which hopefully we've laid out ahead of time so that I can, again, give me a 3-word answer. I don't need a paragraph. I need to know do they roll cover 3? What we're looking for. I need to know that answer pretty quickly. And that's got to be practiced. Generally, we don't get great on our headsets or game management, just like the kids don't, until the season kind of works its way through, because there's always some fine tuning. But the more you can explicitly say, your job is to do this, your job is to do that, then we have jobs on the sideline, so there's jobs on for between drives where we do want to hear more conversation. So we just went 3 and out on offense. Probably needs to be some conversation there of, what happened, what are we wanting to come out into. So a lot of times that's going to be potentially the alignment that we're getting. What alignment are we getting? For us, a lot of times it's if they got certain players we're trying to avoid or attack, how are they doing things? It may be, hey, coach, this week we talked about X, Y, and Z, and that's what we were going to do if this happened. So you have all these scenarios, and I really can't tell you what to do with your staff because I don't know how many coaches you have.
Right.
For us, that's kind of what we're looking for is it might just be 2 coaches. It might be, here's my job and your job. and that's what we're going to do. Or it might be we're lucky to have 4 or 5 coaches. That's what we're going to do. I would encourage, if you have the opportunity, to set up guys that, even if they help coach both sides of the ball, they focus on just one side of the ball, at least during the game. Maybe 2 coaches. Our staff is 7. We have some guys on junior high that help us, but as far as our varsity staff, we have 7 guys. So I've got 2 guys on a game night that they just do defense. Like, they may help us a little bit on offense during the week, but Friday night, they handle defense. They handle the calls. They handle most of the adjustments. They handle, between drives, they handle that stuff. I've got 2 guys that they mainly just handle offense. They may help with defense during the week, but they mainly just do offense, so that we have these guys kind of separated out and know what we're looking for. And then I've got a guy who does special teams. And I try to not give him as many responsibilities on game night, because special teams is a pretty big role. I mean, that's constantly adjusting, got to be ready for several different teams, handling injuries, know if we're going to run a fake or not. So that's a big role. So we want that guy to, while he can still help coach his position group, he really wants to mainly focus on special teams. And so if you're able to do that, I think that can go a long way. Some of you guys are listening to this and you get 25 coaches, and that's easy for you. Some of you may have 4. That can be a little tougher. Maybe it's one guy here, one guy here, one guy there. But that way everyone's got kind of a defined role, that it gives you the ability to make adjustments. I think that's the biggest difference I've seen from a well-coached team to a very well-coached team, is how quickly they can make adjustments.
Yeah.
Can you make adjustments, between plays? Can you make adjustments between drives? Or do you have to wait till halftime? And a lot of times that will be the difference in a good team and in a great team.
I like it. Something you said there about the troubleshooting or problem solving. That's what football coaching is on game night, right? It is just, we call it live fire, but it's just live fire troubleshooting or problem solving, because it's what questions can you answer on the fly. You kind of just said it. Can you make the adjustment from play to play? Do you need a break in series? Can we not? And that's okay. I don't think any of those are wrong. You just get better at it, right? Or do you have to wait till halftime? Can you even make adjustments at halftime? Or are you going in there and you have no idea what you're seeing because maybe your eyes aren't right? So you're not seeing the big picture because you get caught watching football or whatever it is. All those are skills that I think guys learn over time, and allow you to get better to communicate on the headset. I think that coaching is a lot different from practice, where you're super fundamentally based. You go into team O, right, or team D, and you see the big picture, you let the play kind of play out, and then you got to go in and coach what you saw and how you should have changed it. Well, you don't get that on game night, right? They kind of have to get back to huddle and get the next call and go play another play. I think that changes what that communication looks like. Your role can change. You kind of talked about earlier, people may play, practice some with the defense on practice days, but on game night, they're all offense. And that's okay. Like, you're not going to have your position coach as much, I don't think, on game day. Now, if there's a position that's straight failing, they might need their position coach. You know what I mean? But a lot of that communication, you even think about like the O-line or whatever. I always think offensively for whatever reason, but they're probably going over having a conversation with the OC, who's the one that's got to call the next play. And kind of, they got to know what's going wrong so they can call the next play. They can throw in the next wrench there. For people that don't really understand the headsets, I think it's important to understand that some teams, and Kenny, you kind of said a while ago, some teams have 4 coaches. They probably don't have a bunch of channels. They probably got one channel. Everyone's just communicating because they're all coaching both sides of the ball. They're going to have limited ability to make changes, because you don't get that in between drives time to have that conversation. If the head coach is the OC and he's got like a DC and there's 2 other coaches, it's all eyes, all hands on deck every time the ball's in play. So I think that limits. So if you're watching like on Sundays or Saturdays and trying to compare it to your Friday night team, that's quite a bit different size and coaching staff. So, it may not look the same to you. And then I think a base info is a lot of what we're saying, right? If you kind of go into what exactly are they talking about, on most people, it's like you're going to get your down and distance across because whoever's calling the plays. Our team, our OC's in the booth. Some guys put their DC up in the booth. It just honestly, I like being up there. I hated it when I started my career because football coaching was about being down there with the kids and really making, you can feel the environment and making calls. It's changed for me. Being in the booth is where you can see so much more. You can really it's almost makes it it's like watching on TV, right? You can see what is going wrong by position group or schematically or on the field, whose alignments are bad. You can almost do that thing where we expect people to watch two corners at the same time and coach them both, and they're on opposite sides of the field. You still can't actually do that, but you can get a lot closer to it than when you're standing on the sidelines trying to do stuff like that. So I think the identifying the problems is probably most of the communication that's going across the headsets. And so you kind of mentioned the adjustments between drives. So I think it's a great place to talk about that. What do you do between drives to make those adjustments, Kenny?
Yeah, again, a lot of this depends on how many coaches you have. I do want to kind of mention this because if you're listening to this and going, okay, well, I can do some of this, but not all of this. Here's kind of how I would prioritize. It may be different for other coaches, but how I would prioritize on game night position groups that need to have their coach with them. I would think the offensive line probably needs to be near the top. So if you can sacrifice that guy, maybe he coaches O-line, D-line for you, but on Friday night, he's going to handle all the O-line adjustments, and maybe your linebacker coach can kind of take over the D-line, if that makes sense, because he can coach the whole box.
Yeah.
We think DBs, I think that group probably needs to have their own coach, because if your O-line or DBs are struggling, those two groups that's problems.
Yeah.
So we can sacrifice the defensive back. He may coach receivers, but maybe your OC who does quarterbacks can take both those. So that's kind of how I would look at it. And then the next one I would say would be quarterback. Like, I think that guy probably needs somebody with him who can make adjustments, especially in modern offense where he's asked to do, a lot. So now, you kind of mentioned between drives, and a lot of that also matters how many kids go both ways. So you got to kind of think about, how does this look? So we're blessed to only have probably 3 or 4 kids that have to play both ways, but there's been years we've had more and years we've had less. So we try to have a setup on the sideline where our kids know to go. We practice this. So Thursday, this Thursday we're going to practice. We're off the field, go over to the TV. So we have a little TV set up over there. We use Sky Coach. There's a lot of good replay systems out there. I've been very pleased with them. I would recommend not Huddle, but anything else is probably pretty good. Sky Coach has been good for me for about 5-6 years. So we have that system that basically will record the game as it's going. We get the end zone shot, and then we have several iPads on the sideline, and then we bring a cheap big TV. Plug the iPad in there, and we have set up chairs for our kids. And so a lot of teams you see do this if they have multiple kids going one way, and so our kids know when the drive is over, no matter what happened, we go over there. If we're not on the other side of the ball, offense or defense, whatever it is, we go over there, and then those two coaches that are assigned to it go over there and they make the adjustments. And then they bring the iPad generally to the play caller, like, I don't get to go over to the TV because I've got to coach the whole game. So they'll bring the iPad over to me and show me certain things I may need to be aware of.
Right.
But our kids are getting to see everything. They're seeing all of it. Coaches are breaking it down for them. Same thing on defense. So we try to set up in a little area there to do that. And then those iPads we use for our two-way players or guys that can't. So right now, unfortunately, my son is injured, but usually when he plays, he hardly comes off the field. So he would be a guy that, he didn't get to go over the TV. He's got to come play the next possession. Yeah. But when we can get him a break, he gets 2 or 3 plays over there to get some water. We're bringing the iPad to him and showing him the 2 or 3 things he needs to be aware of. You don't get much time there, so you have to be efficient with, hey, Braden needs to know X, Y. Okay, well, I'm about to get him off here. Grab him when he comes off and let him know. So your two-way guys, you've got to kind of be able to do that. If most of your team plays 2 ways, that's going to kind of have to be how you do it. You can't give them a ton of information because they're continuing to play, but you can give them important things and show it to them generally on an iPad. I would recommend, no matter what you think your budget is, that's one of the best investments you can make, is having the ability to make adjustments on the sideline, even if it's just for you or your coaches, and your kids really don't get to watch it. I don't know if you know this, but kids don't always tell the truth, or even if they wanted to tell the truth, they don't really understand what's going on.
This always makes me think of Bo Gould's kid, 65 yards downfield. I didn't go downfield.
I didn't go downfield. Yes, you did. Or, coach, I'm getting triple teamed, and you're not getting blocked. So you got to look at the film as a coach. So even if the kids don't get to enjoy that, that helps the coach make decisions. And here's a real life example. We played a scrimmage Thursday, worst offensive showing I've had in a bit, and we've got a pretty good little offensive group. I think we're going to be pretty good. Now, one, they were pretty good too. We weren't showing everything. So there's a lot of factors. But one of the factors is we had 2 or 3 guys just getting that were not playing well. But I didn't have that we didn't bring it because it was a scrimmage. So I didn't have that. So we're watching the film after, and I was like, man, 3 plays into that, we'd have pulled that. We'd have fixed that immediately and wouldn't have had all these issues that we had during our scrimmage. And so to me, there's nothing better than having that, even if your kids can't use it. Again, we're going to try to have coaches that work on one side of the ball or focus on that side of the ball to make those adjustments, even if your staff is 4 guys. 1 guy offense, 1 guy defense, 1 guy special teams. And that's how I would do that. It doesn't mean they can't help coach, but they are responsible for adjustments between drives on that side of the ball. They may have to be all hands on deck, but they can take the first 3 plays of a drive to go correct the other side of the ball. Because one thing that we always feel good about is if we're watching film and we look at the other sideline and kids come off of offense and defense and go get water and no one talks to them. Like, we feel like we're going to have a huge advantage because we're going to coach up our kids between every drive.
Yeah.
That's just something you need to be doing, even if you got to spend a coach to do that. Again, I've mentioned this several times, but I think you better have a guy who's handling special teams. You better have a guy at minimum who has a depth chart and knows who's on each team and knows who the backup is. Because, man, that'll get you, especially in these early season games, burning a timeout because you got 10 guys on a special team. Or you get 10 guys, so you panic and throw a random kid out there who's never practiced, and he blows his assignment. And that gets worse.
Yeah. So
having that guy who's special teams heavy, I think, is key.
I miss talking about the you talk about having a special teams guy that's counting people, but having a situation coach, right? I kind of missed that in the last part. What are we talking about on these headsets? A lot of that is situational conversation. And last year where I made my money and helped the team was like, hey, we scored, we're going to kick an extra point, but they got a penalty. So we're half the distance to the goal line. If you wanted to go for 2, coach, here's your time because we're 1.5 yards away. Or maybe it was after we're going to do it on the kickoff. Like, this is a great chance to think about kicking an onside kick because even if you sky kick it normally, that's about where this is going to land. So you get the opportunity to steal a possession. Or the guy that's clock management, right? As a head coach, Kenny, I'm sure that you've been doing it long enough. You've probably got, clock management down to science, but
it helps.
Not everyone does.
The offense. I was going to say, I want to interject. So this is great. Keep going. But if you're not the head coach is not the OC, like if you're not the same guy, those are other conversations. Are we going to go for it? Again, it's going to dictate a ton of my play calls. Are you wanting me to try to score at the end of the half or go to the half? So
right.
Those are things that I had to do when I was just the OC.
Yes. But having a situation guy that can tell you how much clock is left. I mean, probably 3 times last year we got to that point where it's like, we need to score to win. We just gave the ball back. There's 3 minutes left. We got all timeouts, right? Like, all right, Chambo, keep us on track here. Or, whatever the situation was. There was one game where it was like, hey, we really don't have enough timeouts to run this thing down and get the ball back. We can burn them anyway, just extend the game. Maybe they'll fumble a snap, which is, make them snap it again is kind of a motto for defensive guys. But anyway, just having a situation guy to do that kind of stuff. I think for these in the series or in the game, you haven't gone to halftime yet. You're trying to make these adjustments between series. I think that you have to have the ability to change what you're doing based on the info you're given. If you don't know how to use the info you're getting, it doesn't matter how many iPads and how many systems. It doesn't matter. Um, I have been bad enough of a DC at one point in my career. You could have told me they're going to run power strong here and been 100% accurate, and I wouldn't have known exactly what to do. You know what I mean? Because we have so much to do on defense. You got to stay fundamentally sound. You got to stay gap sound. There's a lot of stuff. So it's almost like, does that change what we're doing anyway? You go back to the Michigan, the sign stealing scandal, which they're finally going to pay for with like a whopping 4-game head coach suspension or whatever. But even if you know their signs, it gets you in the right ballpark of what you should call. But if you don't know how to use that info, it doesn't matter. So getting a replay system, having that iPad in your hand, hey, we're whiffing on this block. Can we coach it up? Can I change the scheme? Do we run the other way? Is that kid just better than us? Do I get more hats over? There's a lot of ways to answer that. But if you don't know them, if you don't have an idea of how to operate within your own system, it doesn't matter how much information we give you, it's going to go poorly. Kenny, what I'm really looking forward to now is this coach to quarterback systems that are coming out, right? Because as the NCAA okays it, I think Texas is okay with it now this year because they're all on NCAA rules. I could be wrong. Some of you Texas guys can comment here or whatever and just kind of remind us if we're wrong. But I mean, they're already putting them out there with all the communication, with all the headsets companies, right? They're making them. I'm kind of interested to see where that goes and how does that change our setup on the sidelines. They're not going to want to hear everything coaches are saying, right? Can you imagine all the chatter that is on the sideline? Even a disciplined crew, there's a lot of stuff going on. You don't want your quarterback hearing all that. We get another channel. Is that another headset? Is there like a special quarterbacks only coach? So it kind of makes you wonder, like, what is that going to look like? How's that going to change the game? But, we'll see. All that's just kind of speculative at this point. All right, so if we're making the difference here. We've talked about making adjustments between series. The first time I saw guys go sit in front of a TV was at Owasso, obviously one of the bigger schools in Oklahoma. That was amazing. I mean, you get to sit and watch what you did wrong on every play. How are we answering that question? It changed my idea of coaching completely, just seeing that. But now we get to go into halftime, okay? And so you get – I feel like you're more rushed trying to make adjustments at halftime because there's so many expectations, right? You've got both sides of the ball at once. All the coaches now have a voice. We kind of got into fast forward, and maybe that was to our detriment, trying to fly through here and get a lot of stuff done with a small amount of time. How did you set up your halftime to make adjustments that made sense and were actually useful when you came back out?
Man, I don't think anything's perfect, and I think a lot of people overestimate halftime adjustments. I think that, like, yeah, you can make some adjustments at halftime, and you need to use it wisely. But I think sometimes that can be, like you said, you can feel like you're going to all of a sudden come out of the gate and be a different team. So what we try to do is we divide it up just like you divide a game up. So we have a 20-minute halftime. Usually you're going to have a couple minutes getting in, a couple minutes getting out. So we kind of operate on 16 minutes, So we say first quarter or first 4 minutes, players can go see the trainer, they can get treatment, water, whatever you've got in there for them, especially those hot games. Yeah. And then the coaches will meet as a staff outside the door or outside a meeting room or wherever, away from the kids. Usually we'll spend about 2 or 3 minutes talking about personnel. If we have any issues with, is this guy going to have to play offense or defense, special teams, things we all need to be aware of. And then we'll split real quickly, defensive staff, offensive staff, real quick meeting on before we go talk to the kids. We want to know what is our plan of action. Okay. Second quarter. So second part of that is generally going to be more positional. So go meet with your position groups if you have enough coaches. So maybe our quarterback goes off, the quarterback coach kind of goes through his own adjustments, O-lines with the O-line, their own adjustments, however we want to do that. Don't have to do that. Our defense sometimes will go to the box instead of D-line, linebacker, they'll just go together. But a lot of times that's kind of your individual time. The third quarter is usually the whole group. So offensive group, and defensive group. And of course, if you have kids that go both ways, they may have to kind of bounce back and forth, or one of you gets them and one of you doesn't get them. But you're going to get the overall, here's our adjustments, here's what we're doing. And then the last quarter of that, the fourth quarter of that, the whole team is together. Any special teams adjustments we're going to make, because that's going to affect everybody. So that'll be where we're making this on kickoff, and we're doing this on punt, or whatever it's going to be. And then whatever the message is from me, which is usually our message is pretty standard. I don't think you get too high, too low. I think if you're up, you need to continue to push forward. And if you're down, you're going to have to just stay calm and keep working back into it. I don't think that's some raw time, but I think you can make good, solid adjustments. We would like to know coming out of halftime what plays we're eliminating that we're not going to call because they're not working, or what plays we need to call that have been working or we haven't called yet. We would like to know, like, are we going to make personnel adjustments on either side of the ball? And then usually on defense, if they're making any changes because we're getting hurt certain ways, that's the adjustments we want to know coming out. If we can get those done, that's what we want to do. And then if our kids can rest and relax and kind of get ready for what's coming, and that's kind of our goal.
I think it's big there. You talk about, what plays we're not going to run anymore. Just take that off their plate. Hey, these are tags you don't have to remember, especially us. We're in a huge tag system, right? So if there's something we can alleviate and take off their plate, fine. I think you got to be careful with the adding to, right? We're big on, like, if we want to practice everything, every single snap that we take to the football on Friday night, we've practiced like a minimum of 4 times somewhere throughout the week. And so you want to be careful adding to. Now, can you go out and use a tag from a couple weeks ago? Absolutely, right? But it's really hard to install at halftime of a game and be like, hey, now we're going to do this. Hope you can perform it because it's going to give us an edge.
Right.
Maybe you should have installed that somewhere in fall camp or along the way, because it's hard to do that. But sometimes it's just necessity.
If you've done a good job and you have the tag, I've done that multiple times where I've come in and said, hey guys, we're running this RPO and the safety's jumping it. We're going to run this concept that we put in. We know it. Y'all remember it. And if they remember it, feel good about it. We've got a lot of cheap touchdowns coming right out the gate because we've seen something and been able to go to it. But like you said, that's not new. When you put something new in, probably ain't going to work.
Yeah. Probably better off just answering questions that are, with your base stuff. So, yeah, I mean, those are great points there, Coach. And I love how y'all break down the halftime in those 4 segments. It's probably something I need to put down in a notebook somewhere, because I've had years where it was just like mad scientist. How are we going to beat this team, right? Because it's just, you're trying to communicate with kids. What are you seeing out there? And how does this play been hitting? And like you said, kids I don't know that they know, right? I mean, you ask them, oh yeah, Coach, I got a 4-eye. I've had a 4-eye all night. And you get the film and it's like, no, it wasn't. not once. Kids just don't, for whatever reason, they're not good at that sometimes.
But I do think it's a good point that usually in that position group and in those sideline chairs, it's a two-way communication there. Like the coach is telling them, hey, here's what we need to be doing, but we're also hearing the kids. We're also hearing what the kids are saying. So there's a two-way communication there. But when the film is on, it eliminates opinions.
Right.
Like it eliminates opinion. I'm not telling you suck right now, and I can't give you an answer. I'm telling you, look, this guy's crossing your face. You need to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, no, 100%. You've got that right. Coach Hoover here says halftime should be a sticky note and not a novel.
Yes,
I think that's huge, right? You're not doing a week's game plan right there at the.
No. If you are, you're probably losing.
That's right. All right, man. Let's jump into this last part here, Kenny, and that's how. And we're kind of getting back into part 1, but how do you set up your coaching staff and what jobs are you giving them? So, like, how do you allocate who gets to actually talk and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that's going to be offense or defense. So for us offensively, there are different areas of the field I want to see covered, and I think this would probably apply for any offense. I mean, you need somebody in the box or far enough removed that they can see the far sideline. Like, that's probably one of the areas where everyone in the stands can see it, but on the field, you really can't. So we like to have a coach generally in the box who's looking at their sideline. Like, are they having adjustments over there? Sometimes they'll hide guys over there on their sideline. They may see a coverage that looks different over there that you can't see it because it's not close to you. So one guy's kind of looking at and substitution patterns. Like, this guy just went out, this guy just came in. So somebody's watching that. Generally, that's the guy in the box. Okay. I've got a guy watching the back end and coverages. He's also watching for, like, we read one player on most passes. So if the safety's biting or they're rolling the corner, whatever they're doing, he's kind of looking for, okay, this would be a pass concept or an RPO concept that we have in our arsenal that we can bring out. So he's kind of looking for that stuff. And a lot of times, if I'm doing a good job calling plays, I will call a play and ask him to look for, hey, we're going to go trips this set, check the safety. We're running the ball here, but I need to know, what are they doing? Okay. Then I usually will have a younger coach. My son, like I mentioned, unfortunately, is out for hopefully just a couple of weeks, maybe more than that, but he's going to be charting who made the tackle. Like, who made the tackle, because that can dictate a whole lot of things depending on your offense. It could be this guy's really good, run the other way. Or it could be we can RPO this kid. We have different wrinkles, or we could play action this kid. We have different things we can do to attack this guy who's making the play. And then usually we're going to have our offensive line guys watching the box, alignment, who's getting whipped, that kind of stuff for us. What sets give us the best advantage in the run game? And so he's looking for that. And then defensively, usually we'll have a guy obviously watching each position for us, but we also have a guy in the box kind of looking for, hey, weird alignments. They just put their all-state kid at fullback or tight end, or he's in a bunch trips, or he's, usually following where are their studs lining up, what are they doing, and charting different formations and what we're getting and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, having that much breakdown is awesome, and I think it obviously, you get more coaches, you get more breakdown. Coaches get less to do. It's no different than having more kids on a team helps each kid eliminate some stuff they have to do, right? Less Swiss Army knives, if you will. Mm-hmm. You guys that don't have a lot, you're looking a lot more in this, but I feel like it's a great way to develop your coaches, right? Because now you're watching both sides of the ball. Every coach on a small staff is an offense and a defensive guy. So I think that's really neat. We're going to be special this year. So we're doing all those things that you're doing, charting both sides. We're using the Winning Edge performance analytics this year. And I think that's going to change a lot of how we watch ball as a coaching staff, because it's just like, it's no different than tagging film. So whatever tagging columns you would use on Huddle to really refine an opponent or yourself and see how things are going, that's kind of where we're starting to watch. It's where our eyes are going to as well. So whether we change our tagging to be more pertinent or our communication and in-game charting to be more pertinent, one of those is going to give and be what we hope to be a more efficient communication piece, right? So maybe we're tagging too much stuff on the Huddle film or whatever your film thing of choice is. If you're the quick cut, maybe we're putting too much time and effort into that, or maybe we're not giving enough stuff on Friday night. So one of those is about to go through a big overhaul, I think, as we get into this new analytical view of football.
Well, here's the danger of analytics, and I'll say that, like, AI doesn't play the game, so I'd be careful. It's good knowledge. Sometimes the mom in the stands has more knowledge than the AI because she goes, stop number 3. And I think a lot of times the defense, they're in trips, they're in this, and why are they in it? Are the questions we got to be asking.
For sure. So I'm anxious to kind of see how all of that works out this year, but it's great to see that you have a good plan to break down your coaching staff. I think most people do. If you're a head coach that doesn't, that probably means you're doing it all. And man, you can't do everything, right? Your eyes just simply can't be everywhere. So it's one of those, like, you're going to have to learn to trust people, teach them up, go through a film session during the week. I mean, when practice is over, go in and have your own practice. Watch a game from the, and keep their eyes focused and have them tell you what they're seeing, whatever it is. But yeah, man, I think that's pretty much it. I know we're kind of flying through pretty quick today. Let's jump into our situation of the week here, Coach, and then we'll go ahead and close out the episode. Looks like we've got score late in the game to go up 7. And a decision here is, do you go for 2 or do you go for 1? Do you kick the extra point or do you go for the 2-point conversion?
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I think that basically you're looking at, can I end the game right here? If you go for 2 there, you end the game. I'll give you, this happened to us. It might have been 6 or 7 years ago. We were up 1 and got the ball back, and I didn't do a very good job of coaching our kids, and the other coach did. His name's Tommy Shoemaker. He's in Alabama. But we were just trying to get the first down to win the game. Well, he had been smart and told his kids, if we get the first down, let us score. Well, we get a kid who's excited, doesn't know any better, and gets the first down and proceeds to score a touchdown like any normal kid would do, because we didn't say anything. So now here's that situation. Now we're up 7. I can try to win the game and go for 2, or I can kick the extra point. I'll tell you this situation, then I'll tell you my thoughts on it. We kicked the extra point to go up 8. They promptly went down and scored with no time left, and we stopped them about that much on the 2-point to win the game. So in that situation, it worked out to go for 1. But here's what you need to consider if you're in that situation. Number one, what's the score? Like, is it even a struggle? Like, is this a 45 to 38 where they're scoring and you're scoring? So there's a good chance they might score again. If that's the case, I would lean towards going for 2.
Yeah.
How's your kicker? Has he been perfect on extra points, or is he an average kicker? That might dictate the same situation. At minimum, we're probably going to line up and try to get him to jump off sides. Like, at minimum, we're probably going to line up an offense and hard count them and see if they'll bite and give me 1.5 yards. And that's kind of how I would probably treat that situation. And then you got to make the call there, because you kick it, they come back and tie, you're going to feel sick. You go for 2 and don't get it, and they come back and go for 2 and beat you. So it's one of those deals where that's why head coaches get paid an extra $45 and a bologna sandwich to figure that out. So,
yeah, there's a lot of scenarios there, right? I don't think there is a right answer. What can your kids do? I always think, like, hey, we just scored. Was it a fluke, or did we own that series? Because if we're hot, let's ride it. If it was a struggle and we just got one of those weird breakaway plays and snuck in, maybe, but we all, Joe and I we talk all the time about just go for 2 every time, because you got to be 51% in going for 2 to be advantageous to being 100% kicking. And I don't know the last time our team was 100% kicking. So, it's just one of those questions. Like, it's the numbers game. I think you'll have a feel for it in the moment, I hope.
No, I was in the moment. I wanted to go for 2 in that game. And when my older coach goes, "Coach, don't do that." I said, the worst they can do is tie us. And so I kicked it. It worked. But like, my gut has always been go for 2. Yeah. In that situation, it was good for us that I didn't.
Offense has so many rules in their favor nowadays. Like, it's really hard to think, like, I'm not going to just go for this right now, whatever it is. So awesome. All right, man. Well, let's close out real quick. Don't forget our sponsors, Ace Sports, Mark.Bridges at acesports.com, Winning Edge Performance Analytics. You can go over to the website and sign up, winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Hey, if you just Google that, it's going to give you like his Facebook page, which will eventually get you there. It is a little confusing. Once again, just contact me or just type all of that in your search browser and put .com. It'll get you to the website. Social media, I am at Coach Chambo OK. You can go to my, email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com, and the website by the same, chamberlainfootballconsulting.com. The Patreon is still alive and well. Go over patreon.com/chamberlainfootballconsulting. Kenny, where are you at, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So fbcoachsimpson.com, at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter or X, and then fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com.
Awesome. We want to thank you for being a listener of the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.